Right now, we will broadcast for you the news in English on Radio Free Syria.
Welcome to our news hour in English. I am Marwan Kadro and I will be with you during this news hour from Radio Free Syria. We will start with the headlines, and this time from the local coordination committees in Syria. At the end of Tuesday, the local coordination committees were able to document 111 marchers, including 13 children, 4 women, and 5 marchers under torture. 51 marchers in Damascus and its suburbs, 50 in Aleppo, 11 in Idlib, 10 in Hama, 7 in Homs, 6 in Deir ez-Zor, 4 in Dar'a, 1 in Raqqa, and 1 in Suwaida. The Free Syrian Army clashed with the regime forces in 154 locations. The fiercest clashes were reported in Damascus and its suburbs when the FSA successfully liberated the Operation Commandment building in the police academy in Khan al-Assal. In Aleppo, the FSA shelled the police commandment school that was caught in fire as a result of mortar shelling. In Hama, the FSA targeted the 47th Brigade of regime forces using mortar shells. In Dar'a, the FSA liberated this police station located on the Jordan-Syrian border. In Medan, in Damascus, the FSA targeted a tank and was able to successfully destroy several personal carriers and military vehicles of the regime army across different cities in Syria. According to Reuters, Syria's opposition needs more help in its struggle against President Bashar al-Assad, and Washington wants to find ways to speed up a political transition, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said on Wednesday. Kerry, who met his French counterpart in Paris ahead of a Friends of Syria meeting in Rome on Thursday, did not say whether Washington was planning additional aid. The Washington Post reported this week that the White House was considering a shift in policy and could send the rebels body armor and armed vehicles and provide military training. The report said U.S. officials still oppose providing arms. We are examining and developing ways to accelerate the transition the Syrian people seek and deserve, Kerry told a news conference with French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius. He said Washington wanted the Syrian opposition's advance on how to speed up a political solution which would be the best way to end the bloodshed and protect the interests of the Syrian people. That may require us to change President al-Assad's current calculation, he said. He needs to know he cannot shoot his way out of this, so we need to convince him of that, and I think the opposition needs more help in order to be able to do that. And we are working together to have a united position. Also, according to Reuters, Turkish and Qatari support for Syrian insurgents is tantamount to a declaration of war against Iraq, which will suffer from the fallout of an increasingly sectarian conflicts next door, an Iraqi Shia political say. Hadi al-Amiri, transport minister and head of the formerly armed Badr organization, said Sunni Muslim Turkey and Qatar had stymied all efforts to resolve the Syrian conflict peacefully. Iraq is calmer than the communal bloodletting that killed tens of thousands in 2006 and 2007, but the war in neighboring Syria is straining its precarious sectarian balance. Amiri accused Ankara and Doha, which support the opposition to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, of arming jihadi groups in Syria, where many Sunni militias are fighting, including the Al-Qaeda-approved Nusra Front, which has links to Al-Qaeda in Iraq. Presenting money and weapons to Al-Qaeda in Syria by Qatar and Turkey is a declaration of armed action against Iraq, Amiri told Reuters in an interview this week. These weapons will reach Iraqi chests for sure. Sectarian unrest has been on the rise in Iraq. Tens of thousands of Iraqi Sunnis have staged protests against Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, Shiites-led government in their western stronghold of Anbar bordering Syria. and Al-Qaeda has urged them to take up arms. Al-Qaeda-linked militias appear to be regrouping in Anbar's caves and valleys, with some moving into Syria to join the fights against Assad, whose Alawite sect springs from Shiite Islam. Scores of Iraqi Shiite militias are also fighting in Syria alongside forces loyal to Assad, who is backed by Shiite Iran. Amiri, whose Badr organization laid down its weapons in 2004, said he was against militias, criticizing the recent formation of a new Shiite militia named Al-Mukhtar Army. Some people in Baghdad's southwestern district of Jihad have received death threats leaflets signed by Al-Mukhtar Army telling them to leave the mixed Sunni Shiite neighborhood. Using militias again is a big mistake, Amiri said. If we Shiites from militias and they Sunnis from militia, the Iraq will be lost. On the other hand, and according to Associated Press, Syrian warplanes carried out airstrikes on rebels trying to storm a police academy outside Aleppo on Wednesday, while jihadi fighters battled government troops along a key supply road loading to the southeastern part of the city, activists said. Aleppo, Syria's largest city and former commercial capital, became a key front in the country's civil war after the rebels launched an offensive there in July 2012. In months of bloody street fighting, opposition fighters have slowly expanded the turf under their control, although the combat has left much of the city in ruins. The police academy has recently emerged as a new front in the fight for Aleppo, which is considered a major prize in the conflict. Activists say the government has turned the facility into a military base, using it to shell opposition areas in the countryside as well as rebel-held neighborhoods inside the city. The Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights has said clashes raged Wednesday around the complex, which is located in the suburbs of Khan el-Assal. The rebels are still trying to storm the school, but they cannot because the regime is carrying out airstrikes and bombarding rebels' forces, said Observatory Director Rami Abdulrahman. He said at least 6 rebels were killed Wednesday in the fighting, bringing the 3-day death toll to 37 opposition fighters and more than 50 regime troops. Another key front in the battle for control of Aleppo is the city's international airport. Rebels have been trying for months to seize the facility and have made headway in recent weeks, overrunning checkpoints and capturing a military base charged with protecting the airport. The government is desperate to hold into the facility, which it has used in the past to fly to supplies its troops bound down in the city. However, the fighting has forced the government to close the airport to flight and to try to send supplies and reinforcements overland. Most those reinforcements, including dozens of vehicles and thousands of troops, are now stuck in the city of Sfera, southeast of Aleppo. According to Abdulrahman, fighters from Jabhat al-Nusra, an Islamist extremist rebel group that the US has designated a terrorist organization, have cut the road leading from Sfera to the airport and for weeks have battled troops along the road, preventing them from pushing north to the city to link up with the government troops. According to Al-Jazeera.net, 10,000 Syrian refugees have arrived in Jordan in the last 72 hours, army sources at the border have told local Jordanian media. Jeffrey Feltman, UN Undersecretary General, said on Tuesday that a record of 150,000 people fled Syria this month to escape the worsening conflict, now trapped in a destructive military spiral. He told the UN Security Council that abuses committed by President Bashar al-Assad forces were significantly worse than those of the opposition, even though both could face war crimes charges. The humanitarian situation is becoming worse in Syria, Feldman said. There are now 430,000 Syrian refugees in Jordan, a number the UN expected to reach 500,000 as early as at the end of next month. 4 million people in the country now need humanitarian assistance. Of these, 2 million are internally displaced. But Feldman said the conflict has now led more than 900,000 people to flee to neighboring countries, including over 150,000 this month alone. Even tentative steps to dialogue are struggling to take root. The destructive military spiral churns more forcefully each day and threatens to pull its neighborhoods, most notably and worrisomely Lebanon, into its vortex, he said. Regrettably, the warring parties remain locked in a military logic which is bound to bring more death and destruction. The UN estimates that more than 70,000 people have died in the nearly 2-year-old conflict. Both have committed abuses amounting to war crimes, although the scale of abuse committed by the government side significantly exceeds those of the opposition, Feldman said. Meanwhile, the Washington Post reported on Tuesday that the White House was considering a shift in its policy towards the nearly 2-year-old conflict in Syria. The report, citing US and European officials, said it may send body armor and armored vehicles to rebels and possibly providing military training as well. This was it for today. Thank you very much for listening. I am Marwan Kadra, along with me, Executive Manager Islam Al-Idilbi. Please follow us on freesyriaradio.webs.com. You can also reach us through Skype on Syrian342. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Right now, we will broadcast for you the news in English on Radio Free Syria.